Good afternoon. I'm here today to present on behalf of my colleague Jill Mills, so please forgive me from reading my notes that I've made to keep myself on track. Jill is currently somewhere in Scotland having a fabulous time, but not as good as we're having today. Going to kick off by a little bit of background. Research has consistently shown the disparities in outcomes for migrants with cancer who have greater psychological morbidity, poorer quality of life, higher rates of side effects and poorer survival and screening outcomes compared to native-born populations. More specific to Chinese migrants, our recent population-based Australian study that compared outcomes for Greek, Arabic, Chinese migrants and Australian-based English-speaking people with cancer found that Chinese participants had the highest prevalence of unmet information and support needs. This project is a Cancer Australia Supporting People with Cancer grant initiative funded by the Australian Government. The two stages of this project are displayed here on the slide. Findings from stage 1 inform stage 2 of the project to develop, implement and evaluate the effectiveness of delivering information and support webinars in Mandarin and Cantonese languages, as well as accompanying them with written resources and peer telephone support services to the Chinese community affected by cancer. The aim of the systematic review, the aims are listed here, and to our knowledge, no comprehensive attempt has been made to synthesise findings from previous studies to provide an overview of information needs of the Chinese community affected by cancer. We developed an inclusive search strategy incorporating quantitative, qualitative and mixed method studies. 40 full text articles were assessed for eligibility and we included a total of 26 papers in our final review. The inclusion criteria was that we only included adult patients or carers aged 18 or older with a cancer diagnosis at any point across all stages of the cancer continuum. 27.6% of all the participants across the studies reviewed were males and 72.4% were females, with a great majority of studies including patients with varied cancer diagnosis. This shows the breakdown of patient across the cancer continuum, with a majority in the survivorship phase. A range of different approaches were used for data collection, including focus groups, 19.2%, individual face-to-face or telephone interviews, 34.6%, and self-administered questionnaires, 46.2%. The study participants were drawn from different countries, with Hong Kong 42.3% being the highest. As expected, the most frequently reported information needs through the diagnosis and treatment phases were in the cancer-specific information, treatment-related information and prognosis information categories. More specifically, many patient and survivor participants wanted information on diet and nutrition, physical activity and complementary medicine. Only 2 out of the 26 studies reviewed examined the information needs of cancer patients and carers in the palliative phase, and 1 study with carers ranked caregiving-related information, such as how to deal with the patient's pain, how to help the patient be more comfortable physically, and the correct way to massage a patient, as of pivotal importance. Health systems in 6 different countries were represented in this review. Across all health systems, cancer-specific and treatment-related information were the most frequently reported information needs. Chinese participants residing in Australia and the United States were migrants in English-speaking countries, while Chinese participants residing in Hong Kong, China, Taiwan and Singapore were native-born and spoke either Mandarin or Cantonese. Although the information needs identified and prioritised did not differ by migration status, language and cultural factors were identified as barriers, compounding the information needs of the Chinese migrant community affected by cancer. Chinese communities residing in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan and Singapore, those speaking similar languages, have subtly unique cultural values due to the different extents of modernisation and westernisation. Information needs relating to cancer diagnosis, treatment, prognosis, follow-up and coping were common among Chinese participants across all 4 countries, while information needs associated with body image and sexuality reported by only Chinese participants from China and Hong Kong. 5 studies reviewed examined the information sources where Chinese cancer patients and their families access cancer-related information. Hospital physicians, nurses and other health professionals play crucial roles in being an important source of information, followed by leaflets or brochures, friends and television. Chinese participants indicated that they were most interested in receiving information provided in a group format. We held focus groups in Sydney. We did 8 focus groups consisting of 62 participants and then we recruited from community-based cancer support organisations that were serving the Chinese community. The participants' average period of residence in Australia was 22 years and all spoke either Mandarin or Cantonese as their own main language at home. Using the health literacy screening cutoff provided by Chu et al., 65% of Chinese patients and survivors and 78% of carers self-reported inadequate levels of health literacy. Participants' narrative accounts highlighted 3 specific barriers, namely language, health literacy and culture, which influenced the information needs of the Chinese community affected by cancer. The participants' responses regarding their unmet information needs fell into 3 themes. The first theme was trust, which related to communication and health system navigation barriers to building trust and understanding between patients, survivors and health professionals. As you'll see, the next 3 slides have got some great quotes on them, so don't look at me, look at the slides. The next theme, the second theme, was related to wellness, which highlighted the cultural differences that could produce conflict between health professionals and patients' view about wellness, as well as the need for psychological, community and spiritual support to improve wellness. The third theme was rights, which showed a lack of awareness among Chinese migrants regarding the financial and legal assistance, as well as advanced care planning practices. So taking all this into consideration based on the findings of the review and the focus groups, as well as the strong endorsement and preference of the Australian Chinese community to access cancer information and support online, we're currently trialling a pilot intervention package that consists of delivering 3 webinars in language on the themes of trust, wellness and rights, written resources supplementing the webinars, and as well as a peer telephone support service with trained Chinese support volunteers. The findings of our project thus far underscore the importance that the voices of Chinese migrants are heard to ensure their information and support needs are met and that the health system strives to provide best practice, culturally appropriate care. Here we see a screenshot of the webinar and research study, which is on the Cancer Council New South Wales website. The webinars, as mentioned, are in language and have English subtitles where needed. I'd like to acknowledge the research team involved with this, in particular Jill Mills, who's, as I said, currently in Scotland, who's leading on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. I guess that goes to show too some of those comments. It's not enough to have the evidence and the answers, is it? It's about trust and really having those relationships.
And that came through really strongly.
Critical part of it. Questions? Yes, up the back.
Thank you, Annie. That was fantastic. Good to see some really good work happening for our multicultural communities. Are you planning to apply that knowledge to other communities like the Arabic-speaking, the Vietnamese or the Korean who have really low English language proficiency?
We would, depending on the way this works, when the research study is finished, which is finalising this year, we see great opportunity to expand it. I think it's interesting that the Chinese community really love to receive information in a group format, but it's very difficult, as we know, to get groups together in Australia because it's such a large country. But what we found with the webinars is the webinars are being shown in support groups, and that provides charts for the group to view and then have feedback and discussion afterwards. And I think the other key thing, which we'd really love to expand into other languages, is that these are in language. They're not in English subtitled, they're in language. Yeah.
Hi, David Chen from North Shore. Thank you very much for that presentation. So I saw that you had a couple of community-based organisations that you interacted with while developing the program. What do you think is the best way for an organisation like CINSW or Cancer Council to interface with them to provide optimal care for the trans population? Thanks.
I just didn't catch the last part. Interact with them.
So how do you, how do you see organisations like Cancer Council interacting with the community-based support groups to provide optimal care to those patients?
Well, what we've been working with some key organisations and support groups which are actually been feeding into this research study, and they've been key in actually linking us with all the support groups that are around, and also ongoing work. They're also going to be assisting us to disseminate these. We're looking at getting the webinars putting onto DVDs. So I think it's key to have them because they're the ones that are telling us what they want. Great.
Annie, were there any, just one last question, were there any obvious reasons for the gender disparity in the research that's out there? I know there's a big split between men and women in the number of research papers that were out there. It's 25% versus 75%. Is there an obvious reason for that?
I think we often find that there's more females that answer research and answer questionnaires more than men. Sorry, Chris. No disrespect.
Thank you, Annie.
Okay.